Imagine starting your day with clarity, ending it with reflection, and feeling fully present in between. This is the kind of intentional living we're moving toward, together. Welcome to the Mindful Edit podcast, where we explore self-reflective questions, mindful habits, and small daily shifts to help you live with purpose, intention, and connection. I'm your host, Annette, founder of Season Journals, and I'm glad you're here. Hello, and welcome to the Mindful Edit podcast, where we talk about living with intention, practicing mindful habits, and experiencing well-being through journaling and self-reflection. I'm your host, Annette, founder of Season Journals. In today's episode, I'm so excited to be joined by Malaika Hollis, Director of Media Development and Public Relations at Alliance Connection, a global marketing and communications agency built exclusively for the all-inclusive travel, tourism, and hospitality industries. Together, we'll explore how travel is shifting from something we simply plan and consume to something more intentional, restorative, and aligned with how we actually want to feel. We'll talk about what mindful travel looks like in practice, how it can support well-being across different seasons of life, and why it's such a powerful space for connection. And we'll get into how to carry those feelings with you long after the trip ends. Malaika leads strategic storytelling and media relations for a portfolio of travel and hospitality brands, overseeing comprehensive PR programs, managing media strategy, and developing high-impact partnerships. Her work is centered on shaping thoughtful, culturally relevant narratives that drive awareness, credibility, and long-term brand value. I had the pleasure of working with the Alliance Connection team at the Mind, Body, and Soul Wellness Retreat at the Zoetree Marigot Bay Resort, part of the Hyatt Inclusive Collection in 2025. For over 15 years, Alliance Connection has helped some of the most iconic, all-inclusive resorts through strategies that combine PR, influencer marketing, brand partnerships, and experiential activations. They're the team behind brands like Hard Rock Hotels, Melia Hotels, Hyatt's Inclusive Collection, Nickelodeon Hotels and Resorts, Margaritaville Island Reserve by Charisma, AIC Group's Nobu Hotels, Unico, and more. And Malaika and the team at Alliance Connection have a keen understanding of what it means to travel in a way that feels more mindful, more restorative, and more meaningful. Malaika, welcome to the Mindful Edit podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
When we look at how travel has evolved over the last few years, because you are seeing so many changes happening in real time, what stands out most to you for how people are approaching travel differently today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shifts that we've seen over the last few years is that, travel is becoming much more emotionally driven. Before it was a bit more about where you're going, checking off a list, and now it's a lot more about why you're going and how you want to feel when you get back. So, we're seeing this real shift in travelers prioritizing things like connection, even personal growth. And it's really also reflected in the data, wellness tourism alone is potentially projected to surpass $1 trillion globally, which really speaks to how central well-being has become to those travel decisions.
Wow, that's incredible. When people say that travel is becoming more intentional, what do you think that means for them and actually looks like in what they're looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think intentional travel is really about aligning your trip with, your personal needs, any personal goals. So instead of saying, I want to go to Mexico, you can, it becomes, I need to rest, or I need to reconnect with a partner, or I need to think even. So we're really seeing this show up in longer stays and more immersive experiences, right? So guests are really building trips that it's around things like mindfulness programming or even cultural rituals or even something as simple as having just quiet time in nature. At Alliance Connection, we're really seeing this reflected in the rise of more curated experience led programming at our resorts as well.
So You think about somebody sitting down and just thinking when they're going to plan a trip instead of the typical bucket list, it's like, hey, what do I actually need right now instead of where do I want to go? It's almost like a different starting question.
Exactly, exactly.
When someone is planning a trip today, what kinds of those outcomes or feelings do you see most people looking for? You mentioned rest, cultural connection. What are most people looking for when they are booking travel these days? And as we head into a bigger travel season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most common thing we're seeing is a real desire for just feeling calmer and having a real moment to reset. Today's world is so crazy and people just really want to feel present. Everyday life can feel really fast-paced. We're always on our phones. It's so digital focused and I think travel is one of the few opportunities now that people can really have a moment to really slow down for a second and just be fully present in the moment. So, that outcome isn't just I had a great trip, it's I feel different when I get back.
Right. And you said the word reset, and we've been talking a lot about that at Season Journals and just a moment to kind of change your environment, to change your thought process, to change that like automatic, like go to your phone or check your email or check your notifications, just to kind of put a pause to that. And I think changing your environment is one of the easiest ways almost to do that, right?
Yeah, there's a real luxury in that quiet now and just really having that true moment to yourself.
Mm, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the shift of wellness travel because wellness travel it is increasing, like you said, but it's not necessarily new. It
Mm,
used to be maybe a little bit more associated with like a highly structured retreat or like a
mhm.
really intense like self-improvement program. How is that changing and meeting people where they're at maybe with, like you're saying, that moment of calm, not necessarily maybe looking for self-improvement, but maybe just self-reflection? What are you seeing the shift in the wellness space specifically?
To your point, I really do think it's shifting away from those strict schedules or very specific self-improvement itineraries that we see. It's also being reframed through, more of a lens of mental and social well-being. I think especially there is an increased understanding about, loneliness and how it's not necessarily just an emotional state. I think we're also seeing it's being more of a systems level issue. So I think travel is becoming an opportunity for people to really take a moment and to connect with others. On our end, we're seeing a real shift being talked a bit more as like communal wellness and communal travel. Well-being isn't just individual, and I think that it really can be influenced by some of the shared experiences and intentionality that we've been chatting about, and that's really clearly showing up in travel. So it might be things like a group meditation and experience, or maybe it's something even as wild as I don't know, like a more expressive, like cathartic experience. I know there's scream groups out there that people are traveling to have that real release. So I think it's a clear signal that well-being and wellness travel is becoming more social. It's becoming more expressive. And it's much more rooted in that connection than some of those stricter itineraries where I checked off, I did this, I achieved this, I encountered this.
Right. And do you find that connection is happening more so maybe you go alone or you go with a partner and then they're meeting people there? Or do you find it more you get a group of friends or a family, a big family trip together, or is it a mix of both?
I think it's both, and I think it's really about setting that intention at the onset. I mean, if you wanna go through and go do a solo trip and have that real moment of quiet and reset and personal connection, that is definitely a way to go about wellness travel, but people are also actively going about, "Here is a friend group that I want to establish deeper connections with, and we are, just going to have a moment, in this incredible destination to get to know each other better."
I love that. When a travel experience truly supports that mental or social connection, what needs to be different maybe about the environment or the design, or what are some of the things that you all do as you're designing some of these experiences for your clients?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's three things. You mentioned environment. I think nature plays a huge role, of course, whether it's, the ocean or just being somewhere quiet and greenery.
Mm,
And what we're really seeing more broadly across wellness travel in general is a demand for, recent reports are showing that 58% of high income travelers are planning a wellness related trip that is rooted in some of these very nature based experiences. So
Mhm.
I think making sure to incorporate that is truly important. We talked about pacing. That's also very important. So maybe it's a more restorative focused experiences that don't have that overly scheduled itinerary. It really just allows for some unstructured time to just have a moment to breathe and have a much slower rhythm and take a second. That's really what a lot of travelers are looking for. And finally, design is just it's becoming much more intentional and it's also important. So at Alliance Connection, I know we've written about this on our blog previously about the rebrand of wellness travel, but it's much more about that quiet moment. And as we said earlier, that quiet is luxury, and also having the ability of choice. So, there's luxury and choice in being
Mhm.
able to. I want to try this. I don't want to try this. I want to take a second. Right now, it's just about really centering on, your needs at the moment and how you're feeling.
Mhm. You said rhythm and pacing, and I love those words too, and I think maybe we're trying to at least I know I'm guilty of doing this, schedule too much into a trip, and then you end up not enjoying it as much because you're rushing, so building in time for pause, rest, that pacing, that rhythm a little bit slower, I think is so important. And maybe it's mimicking our real lives, right? It's like we try to jam everything in the day and we're trying to do that in our travel as well. So if you can guide them, I think that's really important.
I think we're seeing a lot of our hotels try, like you said, try to guide travelers through that and incorporate maybe like low stimulation environments or open air wellness spaces, or just, try to create these hubs and these experiences where it's easier for travelers to create that rhythm for themselves.
That's great. My husband and I always say, like, this is either a trip or this is a vacation. And if it's a trip, we know it's going to be a little bit more fast paced, a little bit more demanding, but still amazing. And then if it's a vacation, it maybe has more of that pause. But is there a way, like you said, that you can mix and match that a little bit, where it's like you can still do a trip, where you're maybe traveling a lot and it's a little bit more demanding. But yeah, is there a way to make a hybrid of those two?
Mm. Yeah, and I love that distinction. I think there is a sweet spot. I think even with more of an active or an itinerary driven trip, you can still intentionally build in those moments to take a pause, to take a second. It could be anything as you could just start the day slowly, maybe by the water, something as small as that. Maybe you're journaling by the water, or maybe it's even participating in a mindfulness experience offered by a hotel or by the local destination. I think overall, if your trip is active, that's great, but you can still implement different built-in opportunities to take a moment to reset, to take a moment of just calm, and really just be intentional about your energy and about your schedule.
Mhm. And I think when people are traveling, maybe they're a little bit more open-minded to trying something new. So if they haven't tried a mindfulness practice before, maybe, they haven't tried sunrise yoga before or something like that, they might be more likely to try that on a trip, right?
Exactly. Travel is a great time for firsts.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. So I want to switch gears a little bit to talking about life stages and aligning your travel decisions with where you are in life, and that ties back to, of course, asking that first question, what do I need first out of this trip? But that can also align with where am I in my life right now, what's going on in my world. There's this growing conversation around travel designed for women and their different life stages. And what kind of changes are you seeing in that space for women specifically?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a much more nuanced approach, especially when it comes to women in travel. There's a real growing awareness when it comes to designing experiences to support, real life needs for women, whether it's hormonal health, whether it's just general burnout. We're seeing a lot of conversation around cortisol regulation, around premenopause and menopause, around, fertility or even postpartum care. So, there's definitely really niche topics out there, and women are really looking for experiences that are reflecting their real biological and emotional needs. So I think we're kind of seeing that shift when it comes to wellness travel. And I think the space is really expanding in a really meaningful way to be able to be more inclusive and actually support women in a way that will make them feel good when they get back.
Mm-hmm. What ways do you see that happening, if any specific things come to mind?
Yeah, and we mentioned menopause. I think I've been seeing, menopause retreats grow that could include
Okay.
anything the hormone supportive nutrition. Maybe there's, restorative movement like yoga or Pilates in the itinerary just to make sure that women are having a moment to move their bodies as well. There could be, teaching stress regulation practices as well as part of these retreats. Maybe it's breath work or meditation. Also, educational workshops. So just women feel more informed and empowered and supported through the life stage that they're currently in while in, paradise. So, um, I think there's that, but we're also seeing, these kinds of retreats. A big part of it is just creating a sense of community, right? And bringing women together who are actively going through similar experiences and, a similar life stage and feeling supported and having a sort of shared understanding. So overall, it's just been a really positive shift towards meeting women where they're really at in their current life stage.
Right. Okay. So both mental, physical, and the social connection as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Travel is one of those few times where people can really disconnect from that device or your email or your everyday life and reconnect with others, like you say. What makes it such a powerful space for connection and kind of that disconnect from daily life?
Yeah, I mean, I think travel naturally removes distractions. So, when you step away from your day-to-day routine, as you mentioned, you're kind of more present. It really creates this space for deeper conversations, for deeper moments, for more shared experiences. You can also focus on whether maybe you want to be more intimate with your partner, or maybe it's, just even friendships becoming deeper. Travel really allows the time and the space to do that. It's a central part of the travel experience is building those connections.
Hmm. I truly believe that too. What makes it easier for people to form those meaningful connections, especially with strangers? You mentioned loneliness, and I think that's something that we're still maybe coming out of in the past few years of rebuilding connections or building new connections or strengthening those that we already have. But for some people, it might be a little bit of a hurdle. How do you say to somebody who maybe might be nervous about something like that, or getting together with a big group of friends gives them a little bit of anxiety?
Yeah. I would say travel offers the perfect opportunity to connect with others. There's this shared openness with others when you travel. You're all in the same place. You're all having almost this first time experience for the most part in these new beautiful places and really just lean into that. Really try to disconnect and be present in, whatever beautiful environment you're in. And, you're out of your routine. You have the ability to be more present and just kind of experience something new with others, and I think there's no time like the present to do that.
I like how you said we're all in this together, right? This is a first for everyone. That
Exactly.
that gives comfort, I think, yes. We have a few newlyweds in our community. What would you suggest to them as they're planning honeymoons or post-wedding travel?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage them to think beyond just the destination. And I know we said earlier, but just really focus on how they want to feel in that time together, what they want to come away with. I think we're really also on our end seeing a growing trend in longer, more intentional honeymoons called mega moons. So I think, really taking enough time to prioritize that connection and really learn each other and spend, that true moment away. So I think choosing a place that allows both for relaxation, but also memorable moments and also just connection in general, whether that maybe is encountering a new cultural experience together or just general quiet time together in nature can really make a huge difference. So it's really just about creating that space to connect. And as we said earlier, intentionality about what you want to feel when you walk away from your trip.
Mhm. That's a perfect segue into our next topic, which is reflecting
Mm.
and taking that learning or the experience back into your everyday life after such an impactful trip. How do you suggest people reflect on what they experience? What practices help them carry that on for
Yeah.
as long as possible? Because I know it fades eventually.
Mhm, mhm. No, I mean, I think reflection is such a key part of travel, and it's something that's also so overlooked, something as simple as journaling. Just noting how you feel or just something that shifted in you or, that can really help extend how you felt during the trip. Is why I love, what Season Journals is doing because it really just complements travel so naturally and, really just carrying what that sense of clarity or even that new experience that you encountered while traveling, even
Hmm.
writing down and taking a moment can help bring you back to it at a later date. And I think, just taking a second to journal what you are encountering and how you feel and how present you feel in the moment can help solidify that memory in your brain and extend the feeling much longer.
Hmm. And I would imagine like bringing up, those shared experiences, shared conversations,
Mhm.
and having those points to look back on with whoever you went with, right? And the connections that you made, and probably keeping in touch with new people that you met if that was part of the experience as well.
Exactly. And always take photos. I'm a big proponent of photos.
Yes, of course, of course. Yes. For listeners who want their travel to feel more restorative in this way, more meaningful, what else could they ask themselves when they're planning their next trip, right? We already talked about how you want to feel. Is there any other things that they should think about?
I think what kind of pace do I want for the trip? I think you had mentioned the different kinds of wellness trips that you can take. Maybe it's more family oriented, maybe it's more couples oriented, but each of those come with very different pacing. I think also we mentioned what do I need right now? Is it rest? Is it connection? Is it clarity? Is it just a moment to figure out what direction I want to go in next? I think being very intentional about those questions can help guide, your travel decisions in a way that will impact the experience overall in a much greater way.
Mhm. Those are great questions. Do you have any additional resources that you might suggest when people are looking to plan their trips?
I think just in general when planning your trips, I think looking at social media and seeing recent reviews of destinations and places is always a great place to go because you're getting those firsthand experiences. Reviewing different articles of, different destinations and resorts is also a helpful spot to get those firsthand encounters and recaps of what it might be like to have maybe a specific kind of experience or maybe encounter a specific kind of destination. I think also looking at the trends is helpful if you're into data. The Global Wellness Institute is really, really helpful and has put out some really great reports recently around wellness trends like neuro wellness and hospitality design and longevity. If you really want to be super intentional about where you're going with your trips, and then on our side, we always share insights on our Alliance Connection blog that can be super, super helpful around planning your trips, and it's always a great place to go to kind of think through how I want to feel and what I might want to encounter after this trip.
Wonderful. Yes, I can attest to the blog. It's filled with excellent information, and a lot of things that I feel like are brand new to me. So you are doing a great job of educating what you're seeing in the industry. Well, Malika, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can we find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my full name. You can also find me on malaikahollis.pr on Instagram. I'm happy to connect there as well and chat all things wellness travel. But yeah, this has been wonderful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Mindful Edit with Malaika Hollis of Alliance Connection. I encourage you to think about how you want to feel the next time you travel and use your travel to support your mental, physical, emotional, and social well being. Until next time, be well.